Where's the love? Where's the love? It's right here in the heart of the city. I'm Silas Grant, and I got my man with me.
Yo,
TL, what's up?
What's up, man?
You
Feeling
good?
good? I'm great, man.
Yeah.
Good day today. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, another
Excited.
good day.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. We're gonna get right into this one. Heart of the city has been, for us, something we've done off and on the last like decade or so, right? And we're now back, and we've been really trying to touch the heart of the city and speak to what the heart of the city is. And the person we got with us today, I think, operates day to day in the heart of the city, right? He's one of those people who is the heartbeat of Washington, D.C. with the work that he does. And we have the pleasure of having with us the Honorable Ward 8 Councilmember Trayon White. Welcome to Heart of the City, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Ward 8 White, man.
Yeah.
Finally made it, man. Got me on the couch with the gray pants, the gray suit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here, though, man.
How you doing, man?
It's been a stressful struggle today, man. I just left the community walk for baby Naya, who's
Yes.
3-year-old who died,
Yes,
man,
yes.
on Hartford, man. It's really perplexing my spirit, but nonetheless, we keep pushing, we keep fighting, man.
Yeah. God bless her family.
man.
Yeah,
It's tough,
definitely. 3 years old, right?
Yeah, man.
You know, as I hear you say that, bro, I mean, and to any government official, right, any leader in our city, of course, you know, in any resident, a loss like that is, horrible, right? But for you, you've dealt with that more than anybody that's probably ever been on the dais, right? But and dealt with it from a sense of like proximity. It's not distant to you. And in many of these cases like that, you actually know the families already, and you know some of these cases when children have been killed, you knew the children. The first question I have for you in that regard is sort of a two-part question. How do you continue to show up for those families? And what are you doing, man, to take care of you?
Yeah, man, it's rough. How do I continue? Man, I try to glean strength from other things in my life, right? Look at Marenbury example. Like, I was like, he was doing this work. He was 77 years old, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I just try to get strength from different places. But I tell you, today I'm weak, man. Like, very emotional. I'm tired, drained. You know, when I heard the father explain exactly how it happened, I'm like, man, we still got individuals in our community that think it's okay to ride around the street with a fully automatic weapon and fire into the crowd. Yeah. And as I hear him talking about as he pulled off, he didn't even know his daughter was hit. So he kept her driving. So, man, just to go up there today, you know, and guess what, Tom? When I was on the way up there, I was on 25th. I looked at a family that was grieving because it was a shooting earlier today.
Somebody died.
And I was like, I felt bad because they saw me. And I know I saw them. They know and I'm like, man, but I'm already late to go speak at this baby Naya community walk. And so it just crushed me, bro. But and I'm in therapy, man. I go to therapy tomorrow morning at 8:30, man. Just trying to figure it out, man. It's tough. It never gets easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously I've not been in your seat, right? But I worked in the council.
Yeah.
And I spent 4 years working in the council. And there were a couple of child deaths that really were like the pivotal sort of like motivation for me to leave, right? And I love serving, but those moments when I think back to my own experiences, they cause me to be like, I don't know that I want to do this long term, right? So I got alerts and I would see blocks and I'm like, I might know who that person is. So I can imagine yours is like 20 times more where you get an alert. Man. You almost know it's somebody you know.
And it created something in me where I really have to push myself to get to know and bond with people again. Yeah. I've created some type of barrier where I've distanced myself from, because I coached Little League football. So a lot of my losses came with children that was in my house, in my car, took out of town, been around my family. And so a lot of my losses came like that. So it's like, I guess even affect my current relationships, like growing up, you know, I went through a divorce and all that, you know. So it's still some things I'm working through personally to continue to do this work. But to your point, Silas, I do get those tired moments, man. It's like, man, how much more can I take? I buried over 460 people, man, to gun violence, and I'll be 40 on Saturday, but I ain't even that old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it takes a toll on me, man.
Yeah, man. Well, we want to keep you lifted, and you keep taking time or finding time to take care of yourself, because you the people's champion. The people need you, but people gotta understand too, and that's for everybody out there. And I hear people say that about some similar stuff, when it come to us too, right?
Yeah.
But like sometimes us, we need to be lifted up. We need to be supported. We need to, give ourselves time and space. You talked about coaching Little League football, and mentoring. And some of the things that, sometimes our current roles, sometimes people meet us in our current role and don't understand our past roles, right? Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about, I'm sitting here, right, and I had I drift off some time, right, in my mind, I'm thinking like, dang, I remember when we sat around that table with Kenyon, and having discussions that turned into the NIR Act, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, you being a community leader, again, a mentor, a coach, for people who don't know that Trayon White, can you talk a little bit about what was your HITS, right?
Yeah, HITS.
HITS, your organization. Yeah, see, you thought I forgot. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So talk a little bit about HITS and like, and how do you take HITS into, or how did you take HITS onto the school board with you, and how do you take the work that you did at HITS onto the dais at the council with you?
Well, I mean, early on, I always felt like I had a desire to give back. I read a book a long time ago by W.E.B. Du Bois to talk about the talented 10th.
Yeah.
And it just basically talked about those who are gifted, intellectually, or get opportunities to make it out. They leave the neighborhood. And I made a vow to God, man, if you ever allow me to be successful in any way, I'm going to come back and give back. And I made that decision when I was 16. I started coaching when I was 17. I coached for 9 years straight. And so even now, like running for re-election, it's like I'm trying to honor that oath despite all the internal struggle and turmoil that I feel, because with praise come rejection. And so for me, it's like I'm in a place now just trying to normalize my surroundings and trying to still do right and still uplift the people when the burden getting heavier and heavier. And I just feel like really the culture of the city is shifting in the wrong direction.
You talk about that culture shift. Oftentimes it's said that a person's values or what they believe in is based on where they spend their money.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you can tell somebody's values by looking at their checkbook, right? So when you talk about the city going in a different direction, obviously we got a $20 billion checkbook, right? So, as we're in this budget season right now, right, it's a hot topic. Talk about your priorities and the things that you've put at the forefront of your mission in budget season to make sure that we get those things on the table.
Yeah, the basis, man, y'all know this, of any strong community, family, tribe is education, man. This budget is concerning because we've potentially cutting almost 70 schools' budget. And in doing that, we about to cut almost 200 teachers, 200 educators, man. You got to think about, we have the most money in D.C. history right now they've ever had in D.C. history, ever. $20.9 billion. And we're talking about cutting, and of those 200 teachers, 90 of them in my ward.
Because most children in the city live in your ward.
We got more children in Ward 8 than anywhere in Washington, D.C.
So for clarification, we're not talking about vacancies. We're talking about actual classroom instructors.
That's in schools right now.
Okay.
And they, and it's supposed to be based on the student per pupil formula, but the reality is most of these schools have about the same, in some cases more students, but still getting the money cut. And so that's criminal, man. That we're not under, and the council wrote a law to prevent that from happening, and yet it's still being proposed in this budget, man. And you gotta imagine, like, if we talking about losing educators, we're talking about snatching the people in the kids' lives and helping them to think, be critical thinkers, and bring out those gifts they got inside of them.
So when you all do the fiscal impact statement, right, which is accompanied by every bill, right? Yeah. I would imagine if there's a law on the books that goes against that, I mean, what's the likelihood of that still going through if the fiscal impact statement says that the law might stand in the way of you doing it?
Well, it happens every day. I had to rewrite the law about how we spend housing money for affordable housing. In fact, Inspector Kathy Patterson did an audit after I started talking about it, and other people started talking about it, to say we wasn't spending money the right way. Well, we spent almost 44% of the money for affordable housing on people earning over $110,000 to $120,000 a year.
Yeah,
for affordable housing.
And we know that never.
And so the city breaks its own laws, essentially, right? I was on a hearing last Friday, and I was talking to the director of DOES. I'm like, how is that we say we care about the kids, the problem of gun violence, and the kids are not only being accused of being the perpetrator and the victim, yet we only paying them $7.50 for the summer job. I was making $5 an hour 25 years ago. Yeah. You telling me we now in 2024 they only make $6 and they get tax taken out of it? That's crazy. So it's a moral document. We put our money in what we care about.
So what do you care about? We know education, right? But what other elements of this $20 billion budget are you looking to focus in on?
Housing. That's really important. I'm in the process of building 2 new senior homes in my ward. We built 2 already. I think that if we don't provide equitable spaces throughout the district, not just Ward 8, that people can live, then a person like Trayon White won't even be electable in the next 10 years.
To that point too, I want to ask a question. We talked about Ward 8 having more children.
Yeah.
I would guess Ward 8 may have, maybe Ward 8 and Ward 7 may have more seniors than any place as well, right? Yeah. Right? Because I mean, because the that's so interesting, because most you see the difference in other parts of the city where, you know, and I think we've had this incredible focus on like millennials, like young people, what works for them, and so how do you but I say that to say this, when they redesign the wards, right? You also got new parts of the city in your ward. Yeah. How has that been, like having newer residents in your ward now, newer concerns that you may not have necessarily had to deal with prior to? How has that impacted your leadership?
It's been different, man. In fact, we just had a community walk in Navy Yard last week. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? Last week. And the week before that, I had another meeting on Second Place, Southeast in Navy Yard, because they had a homicide in the building. And the residents were outraged. And one of the residents stated that she was like, man, I'm not paying $4,000 a month to live in here, and people in here shooting in the building.
Yeah.
She said, "What, Mr. White? What can you do to help me get out, break this lease?" And then other people like, "Yeah, I'm leaving too." So there was this type, so what happens is, and it's happening again in DC. DC ran a narrative for almost 7 years straight that crime was down, and didn't put anything in place to really address the needs of the residents. And so it was okay when it was in small pockets throughout the city, but like anything, if you don't address it, it spreads. And it brings to the conversation we had with Kenyon, trying to figure out how to take a public health approach to the violence. Right now, it can happen to anybody, any given. We just had a mass shooting on 14th Street, one on 8th Street. We just had Naomi. I had to go to the 15-year-old. I got to go to her funeral tomorrow morning. You know, talk about the little baby Naya Friday. And so it's happening all around the city over and over again because we haven't really put the infrastructure in place to build strong families, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You talk about the impact negatively that it has on your well-being, having to digest all of these situations, right? Do you ever feel that? Do you ever have a feeling of like maybe it's my fault, or like I could have done more?
Not necessarily it's my fault, but I do have what I call survivor's guilt. That's a lot of us feel, because Tony and I was walking down the block today and we saw a young man and he was on the bike. Tell what happened to him.
Yeah, dude rolled past us and he stopped. He like, oh, that Trayon White. We still walking behind him. He turned around like, man, damn, it's so good to see you.
Yeah.
And he mentioned a guy, a mutual friend
Marcus, yeah.
that him and Trayon had in common, right? And he was like, man, and they just going, he's like, man, he would always tell me good things about you. Always tell me good things about you. And Trey thought, yeah, well, man, how Marcus doing? So he said, man, Marcus died. He got killed, man, in 2019 out Southwest. Like, and it was just like that thing where, like, that's just real. Like, that's a real thing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But him and Marcus was peers, friends. And then to his point, right, he a council member. And Marcus died in 2019.
Yeah. And I asked that question because I remember being in a situation where staffing council member and having to talk to a family where the mom was a government official, the dad was a government worker, and they were like, man, we did everything right, and we lost our kid. And in that moment, all of us that were at that house from the government, we quietly felt like, man, this is our fault, right? Even though it's not, but you get that feeling, right? And I know that, like you said, survivor's guilt is really a real thing. And, you know, leaving your house, going to these scenes, knowing you have small children, right? It just has to have a major impact on anybody that's in your seat in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I think about Trayon, and it's not like of course I ain't got to speak for a councilman, but I also think about, and I can say it for you too. I'm saying in that same role, like you're saying, the added dynamic though is that when you responding to something or showing up to one of these scenes, whatever, you could really know the people. Yeah. I think that's the difference that it's not, you know, too many people that can't even be, I think, put into words.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and to your point as well, I think that one of the things I have been able to see is that I have to do more. Even though I feel like I'm doing a lot, it's like, for example, we building 6 recreation centers in Ward 8, right? We finished one under construction. I was over YSC. the YSC house our juveniles who are incarcerated. Okay. And I was talking to a youngin'. I said, man, he was like, Trey, you don't remember? Like, nah. He like, I said, how old are you? He said he's 17. Then at this time, I figured I've been in office 6 years. So I said, damn, 6 years ago, he was 11.
Yeah.
And I said, damn, we could have saved this youngin'. You know, he was involved in sports and stuff like that. And I knew his family. I'm like, what happened in the course of 6 years to get him here? You know what I'm saying? How many of his stories do we have in here locked behind these walls or already got Title 16 sent to the feds, you know, or in the community right now in a hallway with an AK-47 on his waist and can't read. For sure. Don't have no critical thinking skills. Malnutrition, high, intoxicated, you know? So that speaks to, like, when I think about that as it relates to young people, because that's my passion, I feel like I could be doing a whole lot more intentionally. So I do volunteer in the schools, but it's on a small level of what we can be doing holistically around the city.
So let me ask you to that point, right? And you just talk about YSC. I was just over there the other day, and I had a similar feeling, you know. And it's you know, also in the work, my day job, you know, the work I do, just helping men and women that return from incarceration. Yeah. These youngins got, and everybody I was talking to on the unit that, you know, was 2 groups, but all of them was Title 16. So they on their way to the feds, right? And I was thinking about, you know, me receiving people that come, you know, helping people that just came home from the feds, right? And I believe, though, that we can't ever do enough to stop that pipeline unless we can really stop the people that's been to prison already from returning, right? Like re-entry, successful re-entry can lead us to no entry. Mm-hmm. And so what are your thoughts around what this is also talking about the budget and the budget priorities juxtaposed to your priorities? What do you think we need to do more of to help the adults, returning citizen or not, but the adults in our community, the communities that them kids come from, to not only stabilize but to thrive? What are we not doing?
One of the things we're not doing is giving them enough positive imagery. I think kids sometimes become what they see, and sometimes when negative images perpetuate over and over in their minds, they gravitate to something that may not be as positive. Yeah. And because I say that because I see kids that's on the right track, and I come back and I see that, you know, they got the ski mask on in class, got the hood on, but you're really a good kid. This is some fix mechanism so nobody won't pick on you. Yeah. But over time, A lie not corrected in time becomes truth in your mind. And you be around wolves long enough as a sheep, you're gonna learn how to become a wolf, or you're gonna be
You have
picked
to.
on or abused,
Sure.
you know. And so
Sure.
it's about assimilation. So one of the things we gotta do, we have to put we gotta empower those who are doing good and make sure they the status they the standard.
Yeah,
Make
they
sure
the
they get
cool.
elevated and praised, because we got to encourage what we want to see more of.
Yeah.
You know, because I spent the first part of my career focused on the kids that was just in trouble all the time and just cutting up all the time. And I don't regret doing that, but I feel like God, I had two dreams that was the same back to back, and I feel like God was showing me something. And I was in the car with a kid, two of the kids I knew. And one of the kids was younger, one of the kids, I was driving him, we was in a carnival. And one of the kids with a group of kids acting up, and I knew him. I stopped him, like, man, what you doing? He's like, oh, what's up, Trey? And I put him in my car. And then I realized when I parked, the kid I brought with me, the little kid, was no longer in the car. It was the bigger kid that was in the car. And the guy, me and him got into a physical altercation. And this happened to me twice in a dream. And I was like, God was showing me I'm spending my time on this when I neglected the younger kid who I could have easily molded. And so that I say that to say that we had to get them real opportunities, man. We had to invest into like access to careers, really teach business, really teach stocks, really teach stuff that's gonna help them become economically sound.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these crimes is crimes of poverty. You know what I'm saying? I was talking to a youngin', he said he had carjacked a person, got the car because he was gonna make $125. I said, you know the value of a car?
Yeah.
He's gonna
Yeah.
put his life in jeopardy, your life, your kid's life. Did you see the video where the kid took a kid out the car and put the baby on the
Yeah.
street,
Yeah. Yeah.
on the curb?
Yeah.
Like, you about to do all that for, not to say this was that kid, I'm just saying
Nah,
the
sure.
mindset,
Yeah.
you know, you about to crash out for $125.
And watching them youngins, like talking to them over there, and I went around the room, especially the first circle, probably 10 of them. It's tell me why they was, what they charged.
Yeah.
Body, arm contract, arm contract, arm contract, arm contract,
Yeah, because they don't know
You know
who
what I
they really are.
Yeah, and it's like you could tell that, that they over there now. They say, but they still don't know what awaits them. They don't. You understand what I'm saying? They just don't, and they young and just uninformed. You mentioned something I thought was incredibly important, and that's when you talk about the literacy challenges for so many of these youngins, the kids and the adults. The trauma, the mental health stuff, all of that, but the addiction, but none of that is factored in when this kid commits or victimizes whomever, right? And we not just but I'm saying for the public to contextualize this. It is important that this is not people. Our young people are being described as just demons, right? Just young people that's just waking up looking to hurt you.
Man, they even got emojis, so they on demon time.
Yeah, they say that, right?
Yeah, so it's like, that's my point.
Yeah, self-fulfilling
You start
prophecy
telling
almost.
somebody something so much, even the young ladies.
Yeah,
Slime, snaking, like snaking your man is popular now.
yeah, man. Yeah,
What?
yeah.
So it's a shift in our culture is my point. And I think that we have to create an allegiance of men and women that really care and come back and give back. And there's not enough of us frontline soldiers that's actually doing the work, and I think there are people in spaces and places doing things, but it's most on isolation. We have to figure out ways to support each other more.
Coordinated.
Because boys and girls draw to strength. And the exact opposite is true. When it's fragmented, they kind of back up from it, don't see the strength in it. Correct. So I think that they have to see us more and feel our presence, see us united more.
So you talked a little earlier about the shift in the demographics in Ward 8, and you made a statement, I'm paraphrasing, that, in about the next 8 to 10 years, maybe longer, it may not be somebody like you that's likely to be elected, right? Then we had this conversation within this whole discussion about the kids and shifting the culture back to positive images, right? Those two topics combined, walk us back to the point where you got the bug to get involved in this work, and who was it that pulled your coat and said you need to be in this direction?
So for me, I remember like it was yesterday. I was in middle school, and I missed something like 50-some days of school, and I was like blown because I ain't been to school in a while, and I wanted to go to school, But it was the end of school, so I'm like, I used to be going to school. Ain't nobody even there no more. You know, everybody out here with me. And so I was just waiting to go to summer school. I started crying when I found out that they passed me and didn't send me to summer school. That's how reprobate my mind was. I was like, I ain't going to summer school. I ain't seen no girls. I ain't seen my homies. I ain't seen nobody in a minute. And then that year, not only did they pass me, DC changed from junior high school to middle school, so they sent everybody to high school. And I was like, oh no, I ain't doing no work. I ain't about to go to no high school.
So this going from 8th to 9th grade.
8th, 9th grade. I was like, this it for me. I might as well just hang it up right here. I'm chilling.
And that was Baloo.
Nah, I originally went to, so I say that to say my uncle that summer, my uncle, who was the first person in my family to go to college, he made me read a book called Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys by Jawanda Kanjufu. I read that book. It was so much power in it. It was so much uplifting. It gave me so much courage and understanding of who I was. It made me read more books. And so by the time I was ready to go back to school, I told my grandmother, I said, Grandma, I want to make honor roll. She said, babe, I just want you to graduate.
Yeah.
It's not that she didn't want to discourage me.
Right.
Man, you was just knucklehead, man.
Yeah.
And I was a bad child. I was just being a follower, for real. I wasn't really a bad child. I was hanging out doing stuff in the streets, but I wasn't really, it was other people way worse than me. I say that to say it. So that was a turning point for me. When I went to school, I got a 3.0 my first semester, but I told everybody I wanted to get a 4.0. And nobody never seen nobody in my household with no. They like, man, listen, honor roll.
Right.
You doing good. Keep up the good work,
baby. Right.
And so I went to Phelps, and then one of my coaches, Coach Bucky, came to Phelps in the middle of the day, in the middle of the year, and just transferred me to another school. He wasn't my guardian. In fact, he was my football coach, but he wasn't even coaching my team.
That's crazy.
He's like, man, come on with me. I'm like, where we going? He's like, man, get in the car. I'm like, what? This man transferred me to another school.
That's crazy. And what school was that?
I went to a charter school called Tech World.
Okay.
I remember Tech World, yeah.
Yeah, I went to Tech World.
Yeah.
I like Coach Bucky, man, what's going on? I had to wear a uniform, wear a tie to school, all that.
And how long you stay there?
I stayed there to 11th grade.
And then went to Blue.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And where Tech World was that?
Down Southwest in the mall.
Oh, okay.
Waterfront Mall.
Okay.
Yeah, about Marshall Mathers Signs, right on the backside.
Yeah, I knew a couple of guys that went there. I didn't know the location, but I remember the name.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
And so that got you in a different space.
Yep, because when I transferred, my best friend, Makai, I used to go to an African school when I was younger, ran by Mama Abner Walker. Recipe, she just passed. And one of my best friends, Makai Hardy, that's the first time I seen him at elementary school. And we was bonding, man. As soon as I left, man, he got killed. Yep, he was living off Benner Road, because, Phelps right across the street.
Right,
Killed, man. So I was like, damn, it's like God always kind of like shielded me and guided me through different spaces and places that I couldn't have planned this. And then I had mentors like William Lockridge, Marion Burry, Coach Mason, Noddy, Deron Cloud. I can go down the list. Monty, John. I mean, I had all these people that kind of added value to my life along the way. Reverend Isaac, so I couldn't have planned this, man.
Yeah.
I often think about the makeup of the council. We could look at race, but I want to look specifically at those that are from DC, right? Yeah. And I've always kind of did this math in my mind where, like, most of the council members that are from here, they most likely went to Wilson or Dunbar. A couple went to Eastern, right? Yeah. Sort of like specialized schools to some degree, right? But your path was not like that, right? It was just you went to schools that if you took a look on audit right now of where the people are, they probably are not always likely to be in the best situations, right? And that gives you a different lens to look at these bills that are in front of you. So talk a bit about your path to this point and the uniqueness around how you look at it based on your path.
I think I read this book one time by Jeff Johnson. He said everything I'm not made me everything I am.
Yeah. And
it's like I always had a sense of resiliency, And for those who don't know, man, when I first ran for council, I supposedly lost. They said I lost by 71 votes.
I want to stop right there.
What you ain't accepting the election result?
Hell no.
No,
This
Can I tell you?
Hell to the no.
yeah.
So, all right, it's a real story, a personal story. You may not remember this. I saw you at Judiciary Square when you were going to challenge.
Oh yeah.
You remember this?
Nah.
So I saw you at Judiciary Square, and you at the time previously you were the Ward 8 representative for the school board.
Okay.
And you got like 20,000 votes in that election, right? And I remember seeing you, and I was like, "What's up?" And we talked, and I knew about the challenge, but you were going in that to do it at that moment. And I said, "Trey, what happened to the 20,000 people?" Right? And you looked at me, you gave me a look like you looking at me now, and you was like, "Dang, man, like that's real." And I think I'm bringing this up because so many people will be like, "Man, I got your back. I'm gonna go vote. I'm gonna go do these things."
Yeah.
And to go from 20,000 people voting for you at that time for school board to you being in a contest where it came down to 71 votes, it had to feel lonely in that moment.
Yeah, I felt cheated. In fact, I don't accept it because 2 years ago, like a year and a half ago, a dude called me. He used to work there, and he was like, "Man, I need to tell you, I work there. I'm glad I called you because you actually run that race. You know, I worked there. I was going back and forth with them, and they kind of like fired me. Only reason I can call you because I finished my lawsuit against them." I'm like, man, I'm already at this point. I'm already a council member now, so it really ain't really matter.
Yeah.
And usually me talking about it, but I feel like people even felt deflated when they was walking around with the cameras the next day, because what happened was when my opponent, they were supposed to be counting the votes, they tried to charge me $17,000 to do a recount because they said they had to be within a 1% margin, and they said my margin was 1.3%. And so I asked them how much it cost. They told me $17,000. I asked them, well, how much anybody ever paid before me? You know what they told me? The most anybody ever paid to do a challenge before me was $50. I said, what? They said you had to pay for staff, overtime, security. They had a whole itemized list of how much we had to pay to. So I was like, all right, we're going to fight it. But then they kept running the bill up. I was just like, man. And during that time, even though the mayor swore in the candidate, she swore in, so it was like the news ran with it. It was like, but it just motivated the people. We got to go a little bit harder next time.
Yeah, so that was a special election.
Yeah.
And then we go to the one. I remember, I never forget that night. You won. We pulled up players, and man, you know, the feeling, it was something like euphoric out that joint, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember how inspired I was. Like, damn, yo.
We were standing in the foyer watching him get interviewed by Channel 7.
Yep.
Oh,
We just
yeah.
We were standing off a little bit to the side watching you.
Yeah.
I was like, man, look at this, man. It just felt like, you know, like it was just beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I could see the sense of pride, right? And the people that was there and all the people that had fought and supported, and you know what I mean? But walk us through, right? And that was, again, that's just like anything else. Like when you get married, when the baby born, whatever big thing, but then it's time, then the work stops.
Oh yeah.
Talk to us about what the last 6-7 years has been like, and what you done got done.
Yeah, thank you for that,
Since
man.
that,
So
man.
You do go from a high to like you the guy now. So everybody calling you for everything. People got high expectations. And I remember Thomas Penny, he was like, man, how you gonna manage all these expectations of you?
And shout out to Tom too, man.
Good man.
I said, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I knew I set out to do some things because I ran on the campaign talking about access to recreation, talking about healthcare, just talking about empower people to own businesses in our community, home ownership. And so I did a number of that. There was a lot of discussion prior to me coming to council about building a new hospital east of Anacostia River. Right now, our hospital is almost finished. Right there on St. Elizabeth East Campus, and I partnered with Vincent Gray, the mayor, to get it done. Because we have to move past conversation and differences to figure out what we got in common to get a thing done. And we built a healthcare system. We also opened up 2 urgent care facilities east of Anacostia River, because it was like 70 to 80% of people were only going to see their doctor, or when they was going to the hospital, they wasn't going to their primary care physician.
Right.
And so we had to redirect and deal with the how to have a proper healthcare system, not just a hospital. So we did that. We talked about access to grocery stores. I put I think about $600,000 in the budget to open up a grocery store. We opened up 2 new grocery stores, but during the pandemic, one of them closed down, which was the Good Food Market on South Capitol and Atlantic. And so that was devastating to the community because that was one of my goals. We ended up reopening one of them, the Fresh Food Factory at Sycamore Oak. In fact, we opened up 20 new black-owned businesses in Ward 8 at Sycamore Oak.
Correct.
And that was a big vision.
Yeah, that's amazing too.
And we plan to do a whole lot more in the next phase of it.
Yeah, and just to see, like, when you visit Sycamore Oak, like, oh my God, it's beautiful, bro. It's beautiful, man.
And I don't know if you know this, but I took a trip to Africa in 2015, 2016. I was in Benin, Togo, and there was a small village farm that started that grew, and they was sending like stuff to Howard University. They found out I was from DC, United States. And I worked with DC Greens, Ronnie from Green Schemes, a couple other partners, Jern, and Miss Bill, to open up a community garden. And we had probably one of the largest, most beautiful garden called the Well of Auction Run in Ward 8 from that trip. Yeah. And so, and we started doing education on how to eat. You know, I don't know if you all remember we did the bike ride at Martha's Table.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff, I think we started with talking about culture and how we take care of ourselves. I ain't riding no 40 miles in New York though.
We got to build up for that, Joe.
I got to give me some hokers, man.
I'm telling you.
These wingtips ain't going to cut it. But I say that to say, like, we want to start conditioning our people, teaching us how to eat, how to dealing with mental health, dealing with trauma, because, you know, they say hurt people. But we try to create more healing in our village with, I'm actually got a bill out right now around peer mediation to empower young people to be their own advocates and peer mediators in their schools. So DOS is going to pay them to be peer mediators all across the city, to be ambassador because a lot of times, you know how I go, I know who my man beefing with. I know he was just arguing with him on Instagram while they been texting, or they got the same girl they getting into it with, and the girls back and forth or arguing back and forth on social media. But before it gets to adult, the kids know.
Yeah.
And there are individuals who we need to be empowering in the schools to address that. And I've been going on to listen to. In fact, I was at Black Swan Academy yesterday in my office downtown, listening. I was at Thurgood Marshall about 3 weeks ago, listening to the students because the solution is in the problem. We think the kids the kids are brilliant.
Yeah, for sure.
They're tenacious. They're resilient. They got a lot of ideas, and they telling us what they need. But systematically, we ignoring them.
Yeah.
And so I had a meeting coming up with DPR with Director Thiene Freeman because I want to take her on and listen to her to hear what I hear. I'm pretty sure she do, but to bring in the government to say, man, the government, we work for y'all. What y'all want us to do?
That's right.
We got $20 billion, man.
Yeah.
What y'all want us? What we need to be doing? Because obviously we ain't doing it.
Can you speak a bit about? I know you convened a group of us, those of us that at different work in different capacities of reentry, people that are returning citizens, people that are family members of returning citizens, and you took that information and you created a bill that would target record selling, right?
Yeah.
Can you speak to, and again, more returning citizens are your constituents than any other council member, right? Can you talk about how you see if a record selling or expungement becomes more accessible? How do you see that helping in this public safety fight and the family stabilization that you speak of is so needed for our young people?
It's like anything, man. I don't necessarily, but it's like if you go get the flu shot, the flu is nothing but a dead pathogen of the flu.
Yeah.
And when we talking about curing a community, we have to take people from that environment that have transformed and come back and allow them to, because that's their nephew, that's their auntie, I mean, that's their son and daughter. Yeah. We are all interrelated in one form or fashion, and we have to empower those to show they have value in our city. We devalue those who matter the most in our city. And what that bill was designed to do was give them a fighting chance against the housing discrimination they got to face, having a record, right? Against the discrimination they got to face trying to apply for a job, right? in their community in which they came from DC, but they see other individuals who are getting those opportunities and they feel left out of the equation. How much longer do they have to pay the penalty for a wrong they've done 26 years ago, 18 years ago? They got to come home and still keep paying that penalty?
Yeah.
First of all, the price of living is out of control in DC, and it's not going down, it's only going up. So they have to figure out how to re-engage. And I'm not just talking about the men. There's a lot of women that are also coming home now that need to be reunited with their family, but also feel valued and feel like we got a pathway for them to exist in DC.
Yeah.
So that's part of what that bill was designed to do, and there's other elements to that I have a strategic plan of how to fix our communities.
So along those lines, because you mentioned men and women, what I've noticed in because you talked about highlighting the people doing the work, I've noticed there's been silos that are like split by gender. Like you have the men that are doing the coaching, and they might be doing like informal mentoring in the community. And you got women who have organizations, and they got the paperwork more in order, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like they're doing the work, they're overlapping, but we don't see enough of a cohesion between men and women with the work. And I'm wondering, like, when we're trying to restore these communities, we got to restore family, and to restore family, we got to restore that male-female relationship.
Yeah.
And I think even with those that are like positive and doing the work, it's still like a rift there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you see that from your?
Yeah, I see it. I hear it. Every day. Tia Bell had something on the mall with her trigger project, and I went down there and I was able to see, like, I was just proud we all were coming together because, to your point, like, we always, and you got different guys that don't necessarily get along with each other across the city. Same thing with the females, and so I like to think I try to get along with everybody. It may not be true. I don't know. I'm just saying that.
I'm the same way.
And
I mean,
so
I don't have no problem.
Man, you need to be even keel and understand and hear everybody out, because I believe that it sounds cliches, but we stronger together, man. The more we argue and fight against each other, the more it makes us weaker and makes us less valuable to the kids. Because kids gonna choose if the mommy not listening to them, she gonna go to the daddy or the auntie or grandma. She gonna go to if they know we divided.
Yeah.
And then you see what's happening, trickle down to the violence interrupters. This group don't get along with this group, with this organization, the AG. It's just foolishness, man.
Correct.
A house divided against itself will never stand. It's gonna fall.
Yeah, man. We gotta be united.
We don't have the luxury in this day and time in Washington, D.C. to be divided. Dr. King said unity or non-existence.
Yeah.
We are past the conversation talking about gentrification. Right now, we talking about survival. We talking about genocide.
Yeah.
We got the highest health disparities, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure. You name it, we got it.
Infant mortality
rates. So we can't afford to be divided, man.
Agreed.
And the population's shifting.
How do you balance unification and democracy? Because you're in the midst of a re-election bid, and there are people who are in that race who have done their share of work, right? And democracy says that even though we might like you, still I want to throw my hat in the ring, and I want my shot at potentially trying to get that seat. But at the same time, you got to keep things above board and respectful, because we all come from the same place and we all look alike.
Supposedly.
Supposedly, right? Yeah. I mean, we can have arguments about that, but how do you balance unification and democracy in that sense?
Well, I was at a debate, and then with praise come rejection. So you're gonna have give and takes of people who like you, don't like you. That's with anybody, no matter what type of title, no title. So I get even more as a leader, and I'm popular to a certain degree. And I was at a debate, and the lady was like, well, we've been trying to get a senior wellness center in Ward 8 for quite some time, another one, and Mr. White got it done. I'm not sure what that child you were running for. They asked me that, and I was like, well, it's democracy. You got to give everybody a chance. And I think that people should have the right to run. But to Tony's point earlier, before we cut the cameras on, we was talking about how we can transfer leadership. And it hasn't been a real strategic plan how to transfer leaders or to build up and train the next generation of leaders coming behind us. So reality is we don't know what can happen and what we're going to get. And so I'm looking at this race. Let's take me out the race. Let's look at Ward 7 race, right? or 7 race is some excellent candidates. Most of the candidates in the race are my friends, or one is one of my old teachers, right? And I think that we don't know what's going to happen, but I think that we have to encourage older leadership to build up as we go, so we can transfer the wisdom and knowledge that get lost. Because even though I was close to Martinberry when I got in the council, I was on a long learning curve.
Yeah.
I had to figure out how to get, because Martinberry told me something that I learned down the road. He said, "There's no permanent enemies, only permanent interests."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I come from the activism background. We fighting for the cause. But to get anything done, you have to figure out, without compromising your integrity, how to get things to the finish line. I had a bill today that failed. And the bill today was designed to allow CBE, Certified Business Enterprises, DC businesses, to participate in the development projects. And it was about the PLAs, the project labor agreements, lowering the threshold so the unions can get more work. And I'm not against the unions, but I'm saying that when I do ask the unions, without the DC workers, we can't find none. And I asked them, how can we get the guys and ladies in our community to get involved in the trades? And they're in law and Upper Marlboro.
Forestville.
Yeah.
So you telling me, I've been asking you to bring it to DC for so long, you haven't, but you want more? And so I got a company in my ward that applied for a project on the project being a project on the hospital. And it's a PLA. Meaning that it's over 50 million. We just lowered the threshold to $50 million. So it got to be a union shop. And so she wasn't able to win the bid. But when I look up the company that did get the bid, they were from Sterling, Virginia.
Yeah.
And Sterling, Virginia gonna hire their own people. And I don't know them to have any leverage saying, hey, can you hire this 2 people and bring them on? Right. Or can they get into your program? There's no real leverage. And so I said it to say, like, you asked something earlier, how is it, like, what has changed? Like, it's like now I feel like I'm fighting for the community, but while I'm fighting, I feel like sometimes the community punching me in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Or punching me in the eye and kick. I'm like, what the hell? That's how I feel. It's like, man, I got to just hone myself and pray. Like, God just want to be obedient, because largely, it don't make no sense.
Yeah.
I'm at a place in my life where I can go do a lot of other things, be less stressed, make more money. But I say, man, I'm going to be obedient even to the point of death, man. And I'm going to just sacrifice and grind, because there's somebody's success directly linked to me being obedient.
Yeah. But is there exit strategy, though? Is there a sunset? Because, I know the 2 of us know you well. I don't want to see you burnt out completely.
Man, this is my last term being the councilman for Ward 8. You heard it first right here.
This is home. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You know when you're at capacity, like, I had to apologize to a staff member this morning.
Mm-hmm.
We had a staff meeting yesterday, and I felt like I was snappy. And it wasn't because she was doing something wrong, per se, but it was like I was just overwhelmed and stressed. And from Friday, been at the homicide scene, because after this, we talk about the little girl who died, but right after that, it was a lady who got shot on 7th Street. Yeah. After that, it didn't make headlines because it wasn't a baby. But, you know what I'm saying? And I take it, sometimes I carry that. What I'm finding in my therapy session, go to no crime scenes no more, or no funerals, because I'm carrying it longer, and it's taking a toll on me.
So your therapist has said you shouldn't go to those.
Yeah, I think you should listen to.
I was going to ask, are you going to adhere to that?
But you can't. You feel like you can't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can.
You can't. And the people, and that's the thing, I think we got to coach our people, because this is one thing. I don't care. Like, and this is no disrespect to Mr. Barry or none of that. You know what I'm saying? But or anybody else. You know what I'm saying? But if Mr. Barry showed up as the council member, or when he was the mayor, he ain't know them people like that, bro. He ain't know them people. That's a different thing for you. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that. I don't, like, if somebody don't take offense to that, so be it. But it's different. It's different. You know what I'm saying? And so long term, and you doing this continually, I would like for you to, adhere to that sometime, and for the public not to see if you can't make every scene, that means you don't care about them.
Yeah, it's a catch-22.
You know what I mean?
And I've been doing this so long. They like, oh, you can't have them people join you, ain't kind of mine.
Yeah,
that happens all the time.
Yeah,
man. It's happening, and the voices are getting louder.
I bet.
Know what I'm saying? It's like that, and I felt like we we put different teams in different areas to do the work that I necessarily couldn't do because I can't show up to every scene. I can't be at everybody's house every time, right?
Exactly.
We've had 5 people shot in Ward 8 in the last 24 hours. 5. I ain't talking about what happened Friday.
And while you supposed to be, I mean, your job is to legislate. Your job is to write laws and policy.
You know,
People, and again, but like, you know, I think that's,
That don't get you reelected.
yeah, right. Not him.
Not him, yeah.
It don't get him reelected.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think
wrote
that's
an
very
article about that
interesting.
the other day. They just wrote an article about that. Like, Mr. White seems to be strong in community engagement, but it's legislative. But I'm telling them I have to find a healthy balance, right?
Correct.
Because I've got a lot of stuff done legislatively, right? Like when our schools are underfunded, I wrote a bill, and I ended up getting $10 million put back in the schools, right? And but the reality is people don't understand not some people. There are some who pay attention, who are engaged, who check the emails, watch the council hearings, send me emails. But what I find is the people, the population that need the resource the most, advocate the least.
Yeah.
Or least engaged. And part of it because the way it's set up, like we have a hearing, it's downtown.
Sure.
In the middle of the day.
At 11
when everybody
a.m.
at work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you go down there, you might get a ticket or booted or towed.
Yeah, for sure.
So anybody come downtown, be down there thinking you're going to be in a hearing at 10 o'clock and you may not get seen till 4:30.
Yeah.
Man.
You know, one of the things, man, I want to share this real quick too, man, that I think to me sort of summed up though what people, like you saying about the naysayers or the people that what they can't understand. We shared an Uber. We was coming from down the wharf, and you got out down in your ward in Navy Yard, and before the Uber pulled off, it was a white guy walking his dog. And it was a young man, like in the vestibule of the building. He had on, like, you know, I don't know what school, but he had like a uniform on. Mm-hmm. And I saw both of them beeline to you at the same time. I thought that was the most like and the window, you know, was kind of it was nice. The window was down, and I could hear the guy walking the dog. It was Mr. White, you know, nice to meet you. And the youngin coming up, hey, what's up, Trey? Right, and I was like, that's Trayon, you know. Like, to me, that was a mic. That's you. Like, you know, to you got that allure. Like, you got that gravity. You got that pull.
It's also a responsibility because I don't know that
that's
many
just,
others. Yeah.
And that you went right where I was going, because a lot of leaders, if they're not at their place of leadership, if they're not in front of that camera. That people walk past them every day, don't know them, don't feel like they can, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, like that's it's a gift and a curse in that. Like, you ain't never anonymous though. You know what I'm saying? I saw it, I'm like, man, look at, like, check that out. But also at the same time, that you a person that people from different walks, like that young man, that young 15-year-old black kid, and that white man, now they got you in common.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I know that it's a heaviness to that. But I felt like, damn, man, there's a beauty in that, man. Like, look at that. And you can't teach that either. Yeah. So the people out there be wanting to know, well, he don't do this like a normal politician. He don't. Yeah, but normal politicians don't do that like him. And that, you know what I'm saying?
I don't want to be normal anyway.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think it's clear, though, bro, that, like, yeah, it's certainly some divine intervention, you know what I mean, in who you are, what you are. Not to shift gears, but in that same vein, though, talk to us about Trayon White, the father, man. You know what I'm saying? You got, man, your son, he bigger than you now, man.
Yeah.
And then your
I
little
saw a
princess,
picture like about
crazy.
6 months ago. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Saying that, and that's my son.
Yeah, it's happening fast, bro.
He still ain't beating basketball.
Yeah, he still can't beat
I'm
you.
on
Yeah,
him.
that's
Elbows, clip you up,
Whatever it take. Yeah,
clothesline. Listen, we ain't have my son. He in high school, little Trey. He in high school. He played JV this year. He did pretty well.
Nice.
I have a daughter, little Phoenix.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
and the crazy thing about it, when I was thinking about running for re-election, I was at Raymond Bell, who runs the Hope Project.
Yeah,
Correct. Shout out to Ray Bell.
Raymond Bell had an orientation at a CC Prep up at Kip on Willow Road, and I was in there, and I realized I had a picture of me in there when my son was 1 year old in my hand.
Wow.
And it's like, dang, my daughter is down 3, my son about to be 16. So I'm still doing that same work now. I'm like, man, I don't know. It's like I'm almost cheating my kids. You know, I love my kids, but it's like they don't get the quality time they need from daddy because I'm committed to doing this work. And it's like, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do that, man. And then running for re-election, I thought about that. Like, I got responsibility to my kids, but I'm also called to the world. So I haven't figure out the balance in that. Yeah. So it's you know how it is firsthand.
I do, man. But I think sometimes your work, though, man, it really, you got them in mind, though.
Yeah.
You know? Because if everybody else kids in chaos, it's going to find they're going to find its way to our kids.
PK kids, preacher kids, politician kids be the worst kids. Yeah, I'm blessed, man. My kids pretty grounded, you know.
It's beautiful.
Then we got other kids, too. My nephew now lives with me. Nasir. So that's a new journey because I told you about my uncle. So I feel like I'm indebted to make sure he good because my uncle made sure I was good. So he just moved in with me as well.
Yeah, yeah. You ever notice, and you know, in our families, if you start talking to like other people, feel like that what you say, like your uncle, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I can only speak from a poor black family because that's where we from. But like that uncle in our family be meaning more because other people don't need that uncle to be that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My uncle was like a second father to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Aunt, grandma. You know what I'm saying? I remember Rodney. My cousin Rodney was telling me when he used to work on Wall Street, 2 of our cousins got killed. My cousin Alan and then our cousin Pep got killed not far apart. You know what I'm saying? And he was up at Wall Street, and so the first time, you know, he telling people he got to go home to D.C., his cousin got killed. But then when he rung that joint again, like...
They like, yeah.
So it's years later. It's years later, we went to a Houston's that they used to go to, and we was in the joint. He happened to see some of his old co-workers. The co-worker brought that up, bro.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing to me like that. But because he's like, who cousin? Because they cousins be distant or not like, you know what I mean?
Not close
that was a real interesting thing, man. But I salute that, bro. Like that's powerful that you doing that, man. And carrying on that tradition.
Yeah, trying
in your
to,
family, man. Stepping up.
And you brothers give me strength when I see y'all, man. Because it's often when you're on the front line, you want to see other brothers and sisters on the front line doing the work too. I don't feel isolated. Feel like it's all for naught, man. Because it is a challenge every day to keep up and keep going. But and I see y'all, man. And I see the other brothers and sisters in the community, man. Give me hope, man.
You already know. You give us hope, bro. Man. You give us inspiration, bro. We in this together. You know what I'm saying? For sure, no question about it.
Yeah, I definitely want to, applaud you for being in that seat and having that full vision. But I often wonder about how do you convey where you sit to your colleagues? Like you guys have your council breakfast meetings and then obviously your one-on-ones when you're trying to figure things out. What is it like conveying to them? Like, no, I know this a little differently because of the experiences I have.
Well, part of it is figuring out what you all got in common or figuring out what they want.
Yeah.
I know what I want and need for my people. And then I throw it in it, like, reality, I'm in Ward 8, but it's 6 council members for Ward 8.
Yeah.
4 at large, myself, and the chairman. So you the council member for Ward 8. It's what Ward 8 need. That's already 6 votes right there.
How about that?
You know? And so it's a skill set. And sometimes I do very well, and sometimes I'm just not willing to bend or fold. And I fall. You look at sometimes I be 12-1, just be me.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Seen that.
I've seen that.
We've seen that.
I'm going to fall on my sword. Yeah. Like I was having a conversation with one of my friends, like, Trey, what you think about doing this? I said, man, if this going to decide if I'm going to win or lose an election, I'm going to just lose the election, bro.
Yeah.
Because if I do it one time, I do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And it's like, man, I'll be okay with that. Like, man, this person can help you if you do it. I'm like, listen, man, I get it. And I hear what you're saying, bro. But I'm the type I'm gonna fall on my sword, bro. That's just who I am.
What did you underestimate about the lawmaking process?
Everything. Everything. I know me shaking hands, high fiving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going to some events, some galas.
Yeah.
Nah. staff. Your staff got to be competent, know what they're doing. Then it's a high turnover. I had a lot of turnover in my staff over the years.
Sure.
You know, actually, one of my staff died. You know, one of my Nate Bays
man. That was my man.
Nate. So that shit, it's never a dull moment, man.
Yeah, that's my man.
Yeah. It's crazy though, bro. Like you really like. You. First of all, you're a 2-term council member.
Yeah.
Headed to a 3rd term.
Prayerfully.
Like you're a veteran. Like you really a vet. And like the question, like how do you feel going from, you know, and you still a part of like the community, but you are also a part. You're like you're a part of the establishment at this point. How has that been? Like,
it's been a shift in people's eyes. Cause it's like, man, you've been there a long time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's some kids that's adults now. They're like, man, I always knew you was the political guy. Cause you gotta think about it. If you're 17 years old, you was 11. Listen, I was on St. E's, right? And the guy was showing me a picture. And I'm like, I see a stage. He's like, no, you see this? He was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's somebody graduating. He said, it's my daughter. He said, you spoke at her graduation. I was like, oh, okay, what school she graduated? He said, no, she's 25. This when she was in elementary school.
Yeah.
I said, what?
You been around?
She 25. That's when she was in elementary school. I said, how old am I really?
Yeah. Been at it a long time, bro. That's what Shorty outside said, though.
What?
You thought, I'm just saying, when he was saying about your buddy Marcus and it sounded, when he first said, it sounded like something that, like a conversation that happened like yesterday. He was like, nah, this was way back. Yeah, man.
I started on this work when I was 17.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
bro.
So I'm grateful, man. I'm blessed, but again, we have to do more because I feel like the city going the opposite way. So it really empowers me to do more to ensure that our people can stay and live and thrive here. And we don't got no shade to people that's coming to DC, but there's some indigenous people that's been here through the riots or through the crack epidemic that stayed here that deserve to have the same opportunities everybody else got, man. Point blank, period.
Hello.
Yeah. So as we close the conversation, I want you to talk a little bit about what you envision, 2 parts, 2034 for the city and 2034 for Trayon White. What does 10 years from now look like in the best scenario?
Well, in true honesty, if we don't change, first of all, this budget that we have now is the worst budget I've ever seen in my years on the council. As far as like the working class people. Mind you that DC lost 20,000 black people in the last 10 years that was documented. We ain't talking about this, somebody that's on grandma's house on the couch, or somebody sleeping in the basement, or somebody living with their girl, or 2 of the kids, the girls living with their aunt. You know, we ain't talking about that. We talking about documented people. And so I'm afraid what the future holds for DC because DC is attracting a class of people that are high income earners.
Yeah.
And everyday working class people. Like I was talking to a lady, 2 seniors I was riding with around Christmas. One was getting like $34 a month and one was getting $32 a month in food stamps.
Mm.
And I'm thinking like we have people that are not in lower class as far as economically, but our working class that's struggling every day. You're a check away from being like the rest.
Yeah.
And we got to make sure they good too. Cause that's the auntie or uncle that somebody got to go to their house and because grandma not here no more or grandma 32. And so I'm hopeful. That's why I do this work, and I believe in a strong vision. I think that we can make it, but we have to make some of those drastic changes now. And if we don't, I'm not sure about the state of our city, man. Like emergency rental assistance program that's designed to keep people in their homes got cut. Right? We talk about the Housing Production Trust Fund, the money that we use to fix up buildings and keep affordable living went from 100 million to 60 million. We talking about I got a young lady who got an eviction notice. When I asked DHS what's going on with this notice, they said they gave out 400, but they got another 2,000 they ain't sent out yet. Talking about roughly 2,400 people about to get evicted. And what we gonna do with all those? Because we gotta house them. We're going to have that same homeless shelter that we had on New York Avenue and at the hospital filled up all over again. We'll be going backwards, man.
Yeah.
And the price of living going up. The market upside down, high interest rates, inflation, all at the same time. People got to choose between putting the extra money for their medicine or getting food, man.
Yeah,
the food even become more expensive. So the gap between the have and the have-nots is widening. And our white counterparts, as you know, make 81% times more than the average black family.
Yeah.
Then we have a new growing Hispanic population in D.C., and they've already surpassed us family income-wise in the district. So we got to really figure this thing out now or never.
Yeah. So what's your call to the people that need to get involved? What's the challenge?
One of the challenges is education, man. We gotta get the right information. We are constantly fed. We usually uninformed or misinformed, and sometimes both. And so we got to create a strong economic system that allows us to get access to capital, so we can own. I created a pot of money in DC government called the Dream Grants. That's designed to use government resources to strengthen small businesses. I just created something last year that we're doing this year called the SIF, the Community Investment Fund. And anytime I see a pot of money I can pull together, I'm gonna try to figure out how we can own, because we too much spending and not enough ownership. There was a program that was saying, "Oh, we want to get all these black people into housing." When they went to closing, the money wasn't even there.
Yeah.
That was HPAP. Y'all heard about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
People was leaving their apartments, packing up, feeling like they about to go on their path to create equity and wealth. And when they get to the finish line, the government told them, "Oh, that money we thought we had, we don't have," or the rules changed when they got to the finish line. This last year and this year.
Yep.
That's why I say, man, if we don't be serious, even myself, my colleagues, and this, man, our priorities and everybody else's priorities, man. I'm just saying what it is.
Yeah. We appreciate you being on here with us.
Yes, sir.
It's really a pleasure. And, we want to be able to bring the information to the people. So any things that you have in the future that we need to be talking about or sharing, this is obviously a platform where you can feel free to share that information.
Tickets. I got a ticket bill I need to come on here and talk about. I got 3 bills. Yeah. People
All
are
right.
drowning in debt with these tickets in D.C., man. And you look at the data reflects that it's mostly affecting lower income people. And they're really, statistic-wise, less than 1% of poor white people in D.C.
Yeah, we ain't no poor white people, for real. When you saying statistically, it's not measurable.
No.
Matter of fact,
There's no way to measure.
You can almost say only people in D.C. that's poor is black people, really. You know what I'm saying? Our Hispanic counterparts, our brown brothers and sisters, they're not doing amazing. They're not affluent, but they're doing. They even a median income. Black people got $40,000 median income. Hispanic median income is like $65,000. You understand what I'm saying? When you look at all the crime, when you look at murder rate, you know what I'm saying? The matter of fact, Hispanic murder rate was less than white murder rate. If you believe it or not, it was 2.3%. White murder rate was 2.9%. But everything else was us. Not one Asian. I'm just using that as an example and as a correlation between, income and poverty and crime. Like, this in the black, it's not all, it's black people from here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the who you fight for is where, and if you make an investment in who you fight for every day, that's an investment in every Washingtonian, man.
And I agree. And we got to put love back into the equation, man. And even spirituality, man. It's like this new generation have gotten away from the foundation of who God is, man. And it's not, I know there's not no religious talk. I'm just a God conscious.
Yeah.
Anytime I can pull out an AK-47, I see them kids out there and I just pull the trigger and let loose and don't care who I hit, that's evil, man.
Yeah.
You don't have no conscience. Nothing inside you is keeping you from doing that.
Yeah, man.
And we're saying that from Davon, we can go to Naya, we can go to Mike's daughter, we can go all around the city. Micaiah, like, come on, man.
Yeah, man.
It's becoming acceptable behavior. That's why I said the mindset and the education. I'm not just talking about school education. I'm talking about strengthening our families, man. We have broken families all across the district. We never fully recovered from that crack epidemic that crippled black families in our city, man.
No question. No question about it.
And to do that, a lot of us self-medicate, just trying to cope with reality. Doing these losses, we all been affected by it directly or indirectly, or if you haven't, you will be in time.
Mm-hmm.
The population shrinking.
Well, again, man, we appreciate you being on here. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your vision and your execution. And Yeah, for those that are watching, this is the kind of conversation we want to continue to have with the people that come on here. So you really appreciate it. We thank you for coming by.
Thank you for
Living
having
legend,
me,
man. Living legend,
Yes,
Chance.
indeed.
Sir.
Thank y'all.
Fight the
We'll
fight.
see y'all in the next go round. Heart of the City.
Out of the city, baby.
Heart of the city.